Hello, hello. Welcome to our dining room and welcome to Marriage Moment. Took off last week because we were on the grand tour visiting our grandkids. We have been looking at these two books. And ladies, I got to tell you, if you've ever thought to yourself, why won't my man just talk to me? Or it seems like he doesn't really even care. Today is for you. We are going through these books. These are old books, but they are revised with brand new research. I actually have one more set of these to give away. If you would like these, I'll put my email here, and first come, first serve. These are really good resources for your marriage. Today, we're going to look at chapter 4 of For Women Only. And the For Women Only, ladies, gives you some insight into the brain of your man. And today's a big one.
It is.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
The title of the chapter is The Thinker. Mm-hmm. You might not think your guy is a thinker, but he is. It's the way we're wired. So, let's talk about how men address our issues and how we need time to process.
Yeah. So, this was a new part that they added in.
Brand new
to
chapter.
This book. Yeah.
Based on brand new research.
Right, which is very interesting. So, and this was new to me after I read it. I did not realize that this is how your brain is functioning. So it says that men address issues by first pulling away. They need time to process and think so they can better talk about them later.
So when something happens or if there's an event, your man needs you just to give him time and space to think about it.
Yeah. And
which doesn't make sense to you
I
as a
know.
woman.
Yeah. Because this is what they're saying from the research that they did and the research that's been done on the difference of the brain in a male and female.
That's really the whole point of these books,
Yeah.
is just the different way our brain is designed and wired by our Creator, by
Right.
God. And they are so different. Our brains are so different. And once you begin to understand that and the way that those differences impact our behavior, then you can kind of work with it,
Right.
figure it out. So the man's brain is designed to process events and things and quote feelings. We're not comfortable with that word, but to process all that stuff, we need time. And
Yes.
sometimes we need space.
Yeah. And that makes sense because your brain is wired as a man to internally process. You have an internal processor. A woman is designed with a brain that is a verbal processor. It helps me to talk it through, talk about my feelings and talk it through, and then I'm good. I've processed it. That's how my brain is wired.
When I read this, I went, I am not a counselor at all. It's one of the parts of my job that I am least equipped and least comfortable doing. But there are times when couples come to me and they're struggling with their marriage, and I look back on some times when I've said things like, well, we need to talk this through, or let's tell me about how this felt, and not realizing how important it is for the male side of that process. You're going to need time to talk this out. You can't just sit here and work it out verbally. You have to work it out internally before you can verbalize it. Right. And if ladies could begin to understand that, which is the opposite of the way you guys process,
yeah.
it really does bring some healing and if you can just bring some patience to that whole process.
Yeah. So in the book it gives, in this really good chapter, it gives 4 differences of how we process and why it's so different. It looks so different for the man. Okay, so the first difference is that men often have to think about something. They have to think it through before they can ever talk it through.
100%. Usually, maybe this is just me, but I think this is most men. Usually talking it through without processing gets us in more trouble.
Yeah, because you haven't had time to think about it.
Because we haven't thought about it all the way through, and when we don't get that chance, we'll say some stupid things. Maybe it's just me, but I doubt it.
So they were talking about this in this part of the chapter, and the woman said, for the women, we think, how can you not know what you're thinking or feeling? That's totally foreign to us.
Right.
Because we are such a verbal processor that we know instantly.
Well, you're more in tune with that just naturally. It's just the way your brain works.
Yeah. So it's hard for us to understand.
Us guys, we have to kind of dig deep. We have to
Yeah.
work at it.
Okay, so women, we need to understand that we make our men feel very uncomfortable when we press them to talk through something before they've had a chance to think about it. And so if we're constantly doing that because we don't understand this difference, you could see why a man would resort to avoiding and pulling away. And it's going to look...
Living in the man cave.
Yes. Watching sports so they don't have to deal with any of this.
Yeah.
Finding anything to be able to avoid because it makes them feel so uncomfortable because they need this time. So when we don't understand this as a woman, we make that really uncomfortable for the man and it makes it hard. And then when you pull away, it makes me think, well, you don't care about me or this issue, so you must not love me. I mean, I can take that so far if I don't understand this little concept.
Yeah. One of the things that you've done that's always helped me is send me an email or a text. That is a little trick that has helped us a lot because that gives me time to process. I can read it immediately. I don't have to respond immediately. I can think about what I'm going to say before I respond, and that's super helpful. Ladies, if you could just figure out a way to not get offended when we need time. And guys, if you could figure out a way just to say something like, you know what, give me a day to think about this.
That would help.
Just that one statement would free you guys up, and you wouldn't fall into that trap of assuming, well, he doesn't love me or he doesn't care about this, which is usually not true.
Yeah.
It's the opposite that's true. We do love you, we do care, but we don't know how to respond yet.
Yeah.
We need the time.
And so there was one little sentence that you and I both looked at that was really important for just this one little part, that men can do something about their feelings much more easily than you can talk about them.
Absolutely. I think that's from the fixer side of men. You know, we know how to fix stuff. And I think it just comes naturally to us. If we're angry, it is way easier to go do something about our anger than it is to talk about it. It's way easier to go dig a hole or to put up a fence or to hit a punching bag or to go to the gym. It's way easier for us to act out what's going on than it is to talk out what's going on.
Yeah, and that's
So it doesn't come
totally opposite.
naturally for us.
That's opposite
Right.
for a woman. All right, so difference number one. Then difference number two was, we kind of talked about it already, but men need time to do this. And this is why they pull back to the man cave. They do something else that gives them just some time to process and think that looks like you're not caring to us.
Right.
So it helps if the man can understand too that that's what that looks
That's what
like.
it looks like. Yeah.
But it really, if you really understood what's going on in your brain, that you care so much about your wife that you don't want to say the wrong thing,
I think
and
that's
you need time.
I think that's a big part of it for sure.
And that really helps for a woman to know, well, that's why you're pulling back. And it's not that you don't want to talk it through or that you don't care about whatever it is that happened. You just need a little bit of time to think about it.
And we don't want to make it worse by
Right.
doing something dumb
Yeah.
because we haven't processed.
That's really good for a woman to know that that's why. So that's difference number two. Difference number three is, this is crazy to me because I didn't know this about a man, but men think through everything.
It's probably true for most men.
So they gave a little story, and I don't want to go through the whole story, but it was a wife was heard about something that her husband did. It was something with parenting. He did something with the kid at home while he was taking care of the child while the wife was away at something, and they were talking about it on the phone. And he mentioned what he was doing, and she immediately wanted to say, "What are you thinking? You're not even thinking about what you're doing because that doesn't make any sense." And after they talked it through and just she understood why he was doing what he did, when he explained it to her, he had thought through all of it. It all
Every
made sense
step.
to him. Yes, thought through every part of it. And after that, she thought, well, you were thinking about it. Okay, so that's difference number three. And then difference number four is, after all that thinking and talking, once the crisis is done and you've talked and thought about it.
Okay, pause because this is so important.
No,
This is
this is a big one.
a big one. So start over because
Okay.
I need time to process. But what you said was after your guy has thought through everything, processed whatever it is, and then talked with you about it. After you've talked it all out, once all that is done, there is a huge need for your guy. And that is
To think about nothing.
to turn our stinking brain off
Yeah.
after that, because it is mentally, it's weird, but it's mentally taxing for us to take what we've processed in here and use our lips to explain it to you. It takes a lot of mental energy. It really does.
Yeah.
And so once that's done, you need to just let us veg out, turn off.
Which is, remember, so foreign
Which
to us.
makes no sense to you ladies, because you can't turn
We
off.
don't do this.
But we have to turn
Yeah.
off after we've done that.
Yeah. So that last part of this chapter, it gave a cool word picture to help us understand as a woman, especially when you've gone through your busy day, and maybe there is no crisis, but just the woman wants to talk through some of the things maybe that happened in her day, or wants to ask a bunch of questions about something that's coming up. When the man is coming home from a busy day too, it's like he's coming home with a full bucket that's totally full to the top, and he's going to need some time to just process and maybe think about nothing for a little while, go do something that's just totally mindless, to kind of unwind. And when you walk in the door and the woman hits you with issues or just wanting
Questions,
to
let's talk. I want to share all these feelings and things that happened.
it's like we're pouring water into an already full bucket.
And our eyes glaze over, and we want to listen and we want to be
Yeah.
there for you. But when we come home with a full bucket and you're pouring more water in, we just can't.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think that would help men, if that's you, if you came home with a full bucket and your wife really wants to talk this thing through, you could literally just say, my bucket is full right now.
Yeah.
Give me some time to go pour some of this out, and then I'll be happy to talk to you.
Yeah.
And if you as a wife or you as a woman could just understand, okay, his brain is different than mine. I can talk through all this stuff, but he can't. He needs some space in his bucket. So I'm going to give him the space and time.
Yeah.
It really does help.
That would help a lot for a man to say that to the woman, just to remind us, because sometimes we don't remember, especially when there's busyness and kids and you're fixing supper, and you want to get some of that stuff taken care of before bedtime.
Right.
But just for you to say that would be so helpful. So there was a very profound statement at the end of the chapter, which is kind of the bottom line. And I think this is so key, and why it's so important to understand these differences, that we would be much happier, me and you, if we work with the way our brains are wired.
Work with the differences, not against
Not
them.
against them.
We are different by design. God created us this way. Your strengths add to our weaknesses. Our strengths add to your weaknesses. That's why God sees us as a person, one person. And so if we could learn to just not hold those differences against each other,
Yeah.
and not expect, if I would stop expecting you to think and behave like a man, and if you would stop expecting me to think and behave like a woman, and if we would work with those differences, the end result is happiness.
Yeah.
Let's go for that. That's a good thing to strive for in your marriage.
That is a great thing.
Yeah, if you could just recognize that those differences, they're not accidental, and they are super helpful.
Yeah.
And they're there because God created us that way.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.